Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now Voice of College Football post-game show for the West Virginia Mountaineers. Frank Fear and Mike Fox joining along with me to somehow get through this. Frank, I tell you, Mike, it just I had flashbacks of 2024 today. And we took the ball first time right down the field, and after that, it was horrible. So Frank, I'll jump on with you. Just a dismal day for the Mountaineers. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not sure Frank is.
Well, I don't even.
Here. Oh.
I don't even. I'm here. Again, we apologize for the technical problems. They're actually beyond our control. But we talked in the pregame about this being a program game, and I think we have an answer now. The thing that disappointed me most about it was that the offensive and defensive lines got manhandled, and you wouldn't expect that to happen. Yeah, we shut them out in the second half, but we couldn't do anything with turnovers. And Mike and I were talking before we went on air, and he'll speak for himself. But there are games like this, and now the big question is, can improvements be made quickly enough? And that's not even to speak of the injuries, and we don't know how severe those injuries in, but those were marquee players that went down. But yeah, we had chances all day long, but we just couldn't rush the ball. Navarro had basically the same game he had against Rutgers, almost to the yard.
Yeah, and you talked about the defense playing better in the second half, which we kept them out of the end zone. But even at that, they ran up and down the field on us. They didn't score, but we just couldn't. We finally started getting some stops, and we intercepted some passes. But then the offense was so anemic, it didn't matter, and just kept putting the defense back out there. And one thing that stood out to me, aside from the line play, which I thought was atrocious, I thought our offensive line was horrendous. I thought they were just terrible, and they just got beat every single time. Even when we got a pass play off, there was pressure on the quarterback. The pocket was caving in, and they were just beat up. They just got abused today. Hopefully that'll get better. But on defense, the one thing I noticed again, missed tackles. My gosh, it just seemed to me like every time we'd get a hit at the line of scrimmage or a yard beyond, and they'd still end up gaining 4, 5, 6 yards. And we'd miss tackles, slide off the tackles, get juked, or just push the pile down the field. Which is shows a little weakness when you're getting shoved all over the place like that. But yeah, I was really disappointed in our line play. I was disappointed in our defensive backs. I thought, we talked before, Mike brought it up, it looked like we could play a little man-to-man. I think some of them can, some of them can't. And I think that was exposed a little bit today as well. I think, too, our linebackers, after the first game, I thought, we're pretty quick on defense, and the linebackers look pretty quick. Today they looked really slow. And I know part of that was Navarro. He's a heck of a runner with the ball. But we had trouble, covering people out of the backfield and chasing people down, especially him. But anyway, I want to take all the time, Mike. I'll get you in here. You can talk about this line play just a little bit. Well, I don't know if Mike can hear me or not.
I can hear you now.
There you go. Okay. I was saying I was going to throw to you and let you talk about the line play just a little bit. I felt the lines were both sides were horrible.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the O-line. They definitely were, they weren't as good as they could be. They need to really get that fixed fast. or it'll be a long year. They definitely were getting pushed around by their defense, and just if you can't control the line of scrimmage, you really can't do much. I mean, I know that we lost our number one running back, but there should be another person to be able to go back in there and plug and play, and if they can make a hole that's big enough and not compressed by defense people from the other side, a lot of people should be able to run through that hole. So I hope we have some depth in that position because we're definitely going to need it. But the line play needs to be a lot better. Defensively, they played decent at times. I mean, the best part you could say, as far as I'm concerned, with the defense is, if you hold somebody to 17 points or less, you usually could win the game. But in this particular case, we only could score 10, so I guess we needed to hold them to 9. But we got 3 turnovers and we couldn't get any points off of them, and that's pretty disappointing. Not even threes, 3, 6, 9. If you get 3 field goals out of that, now you're like 19 to 17 and you win a tough ball game. So it's a little bit different story, but we just really couldn't get nothing going offensively. And defensively, they got some turnovers at key times. It couldn't have happened any better because our offense could not take advantage of that field position or the fact that they got another possession. So obviously they better get to work real quick because the gauntlet doesn't get any simpler. Next week's Pitt, then after that they got Kansas, and you got Kansas, then you got BYU, and you got Utah. These people, they're not playing either. So Pitt's next. They got a lot of work to do. This team was their they were MAC champs, and they look like MAC champs today too against us, unfortunately. But they all just a tough game. We couldn't hit the quarterback hard enough, and even when we did try to get him, he got away a lot more than he got taken down. So he was the big difference maker in that club. So we'll the other teams, they get the film too, so they're going to see. And usually, if you can't stop something, you're going to get it for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So until you can stop it on film, it just becomes your nightmare until you do stop it.
Yeah, our defensive line, held up decently. I mean, it was the breakaways, and hopefully you don't. Now we will face some more quarterbacks that are like that, but hopefully you don't face too many of those because they are hard to stop, no question about it. I mean, we've seen what it's like to try to stop, Major Harris and Pat White and quarterbacks like that. So it's tough on the defensive line. They held up decently against the run. It's just we gave up too many chunks, and when the running back's getting 3 or 4 and you got your quarterback that's getting 7 or 8, then that's first downs. They ate up a ton of clock. The time of possession was super lopsided. The number of plays, it was 2-to-1 number of plays. We had, I think, 12 first downs in the whole game. And Coach Rodriguez talks about wanting to have 100 plays, and at least 25 first downs. I'm not sure what our total play numbers were, but it wasn't 100, I can tell you that. And a couple good points there from our viewers. We couldn't maintain our pocket for pass protection. We didn't do that at all. Our leading rusher, I guess, was Jaheim White, and he had 42 yards, I think, and 31 of them was on that one run. So I don't know how many yards we had, but I do know on the interceptions, after those interceptions, those 3 possessions, we had a negative 6 yards on those 3 possessions. So, that's, the offense was definitely the problem. The defense wasn't really great, but the defense played good enough. And like you said, 17 points, you should be able to overcome that, but we just could not. Offensively, it was just dreadful. I mean, absolutely 0 rushing attack. And when you can't run the ball, that defensive line can just pin their ears back and go. And they weren't afraid of us running the ball at all. And when you can't run, it's hard to pass. You got to be able to do a little bit of both of them to open up the other one. And we couldn't get the running game going. So that killed our passing attack, I think. And then another thing, guys, that I noticed, our receivers have a hard time getting open. And we saw that last year. I'm not so sure today we shouldn't have just resorted to sending Vaughn down the field and trying to throw it up in the air to him. If we could get enough time to throw it, let him try to go catch it, because we just couldn't get people open. But anyway, Frank, your take on all the things we've talked about. I know we all feel the same way about it, I think.
Yeah, ditto. What is troubling, maybe disheartening is a better way to describe it, is that when you look at the time of possession, it was 40-20 Ohio.
Yeah.
They kept the ball. We didn't. We just went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And we knew going in that Navarro had to be stopped. Now, let me give you the numbers. Last week against Rutgers, he had 239 yards throwing the ball. Today, he had 247. Last week against Rutgers, he ran the ball for 93 yards. Today, he ran it for 87. So we knew what he could do. We knew what his performance was last week, and he replicated it. Same thing. And so that is extremely troubling, because it's not as though, there have been games when a guy comes out of nowhere. I mean, you can give one example after another across sports. Someone unexpectedly comes forward and beats you, but that's not the case with him. The same thing with Chase Hendricks. Last week, 9 catches for 115 yards. This week, 8 catches for 121.
Yep.
When you think about that, I can't remember a time when a team's performance, when it really comes down to just a few players that really make a difference, and those 2 players basically perform almost identically in 2 games in a row, especially when they're playing up in both games. It's just amazing. The one bright spot was Fred Perry. I mean, he was the bright spot. He just played. In fact, let me pull those numbers up here. He had, let me see, West Virginia. Here we go. For some reason, this won't come up. There we go. Technology problems today. 10 total tackles, 6 solo, 1 sack, 2 tackles for lost, and 2 passes deflected. And Darian Lewis, it's amazing. Interception, he had 9 total tackles, 4 solo, but was beaten badly several times.
Yep. He struggled. I mean, he got the interception, got some tackles, but he struggled back here. They took advantage of him for sure. And if I understood correctly, he's a 5th-year player. He's been playing a while. So I don't understand that, but yeah, those stats. If you didn't watch the game and somebody said, Navarro did what he did last week, the receiver did what he did last week, exact same stats. They possessed the ball a lot. They only scored 17 points, and he threw 3 interceptions. You'd have thought we would have won by 3 or 4 touchdowns, but our offense was just absolutely horrendous. I mean, it was awful to watch. And again, worse. I believe it was worse than last year, and last year was so painful to watch sometimes. And today was just, I mean, you just had the feeling when we had the ball, we weren't going to do anything with it. You didn't even get excited after the second interception. You're like, man, we can't do anything with it, and we didn't. And the one drive we had there that the pass on the sideline that was ruled incomplete. It felt like we had some mo going there and might get the offense going. And I do think that was a catch, but I understand, if they had called it complete, they would not have overturned it and called it incomplete. But they called it incomplete, so they're not going to turn it over and call it complete. It was that close. I felt like it was a catch, but I'm a WVU fan. I'm sure the Ohio fans said no. But that's the only time our offense gave us any hope. Other than that, it was awful. And like I said, the defense played good enough. They didn't play great. It gave up a lot of yards and a lot of plays, but they made stops when they needed to, and they had 3 interceptions. I mean, I don't know what else you do, and held them to 17 points. So I'm not sure.
Well,
go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, let's hope it's not like I know it's early in the year, so I'm gonna just give it's early in the year. But our defense, sometimes I've seen this happen on teams that I've been on before, and so on and so forth. Sometimes the offense just is behind in lots of different ways, and then pretty soon the defense, you got to get those turnovers, then you got to take those turnovers and you got to convert them into points, whether they're get it close enough so they could kick a field goal or just take it in the end zone yourself and get 7 points. So at least if you could do that, and I know it's a big list to ask for, but if you could actually do that and get 7 to 10 more points on the board in favor of yourself, then you have a higher probability to win the game. And I know that it's an early season and we got a lot of 70 or 80 something new guys, and all that's great, but we gotta keep pushing. We need to take turnovers and turn them into points, even if the defense has got to do it themselves. I've been on clubs that had to happen. So if you didn't do it, then you was probably going to be in the L category, and then practice is going to be even that much crappier next week. You know what I'm saying? So don't want that.
Yeah, and like Mike said, you gotta convert those turnovers, and I hated feeling this way, but when Lewis intercepted the pass down the sideline, I was praying that he would get all the way to the end zone, and when he got tackled on about the 45, I was just like, crap, of course that's punt away, which we did 3 plays later, and that's a bad feeling when you know that we're not going to do anything with the football. Even our last drive, you just didn't feel like anything good was going to come of it. So, just like I said, I just a lot of things were exposed today. I think we got, unfortunately, answers to a lot of questions that we've been asking, and now the answers look like they've come to fruition. And unfortunately, it's not. The answers aren't good. The answers are mostly bad. And so, yeah, a lot of work to do. Hopefully they can get better. You think they will. I mean, again, and not making excuses, but you got all these new people, all these new players. There is something to be said, and I've heard people say there's no such thing, but there's something to be said for team chemistry and playing together and that sort of thing. And it's going to take a while to gel these guys. I mean, when you have that many new faces. You got a lot of figuring out to do, and they're not just new faces to us; they're new faces pretty much to that coaching staff, and they're trying to figure it out as well. I feel confident that may not happen, immediately. It may not happen this season, but I feel confident that it will get turned around. I feel sure of that. Frank, what do you think?
I mean, I think things will get turned around. It's a saying, but it's a true saying. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is a team, in particular. So, a lot of new faces. There is progress on that field. I mean, I don't recall any time in the last bunch of years where our defense has had 5 turnovers in the first 2 games. So there's a bright spot there, and so. There's a lot of things to look at. Now the O line, they got a block, they got a pass pro, and they need to be able to run block. I mean, this is like basic as ABCs. So I didn't see a whole lot of. I seen them pushing our O line back into the quarterback, which constricts that pocket. Which is that isn't any. You can't make a play as a quarterback with the guy landing in your lap. So unfortunately, they need to get to work in that department. Those guys, they need to pass pro. They need to run block. They need to knock people off the ball. I'm not really seeing, for as big as they appear, I'm not seeing the surge from what someone in their specifications or specs on their body is showing me. I'd like to see more power, and I'd like to see more pocket presence. Picking your quarterback up is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just protect them. So they got a lot of work to do on that offensive line. It's not just run blocking, pass blocking too. So they're definitely behind there. So they might have need to go home right now and turn on those lights and get to work like tonight. So because Pitt's coming next week.
Talking about Pitt, look at that, guys.
Yeah, already set.
Line already set.
That's unusual. But I guess I'm surprised it's only 2.
Yeah, me too.
It's
Of course.
It's because there's a history. So it's like, you throw out statistics out of the backyard brawl, but still a lot of what we saw on the field today and last week is going to come to pass again. So Pitt played Central Michigan today, right? So I think they won that game. But so they're 2-0 and we're 1-1, and we need a win. They need a big win next week.
Mm-hmm.
So but they got a lot to do. I mean, there's pass pro, blocking, returning interceptions for touchdowns defensively. We need more conversion from the one way or the other. I don't care what we get. I don't care if the defense gets it and then the offense can kick a field goal, or can the offense get it and do a touchdown, or can the defense just take it all the way back to the house and get 7? So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's early. And they know what they got to do. I mean, the eye in the sky don't lie, and they got all the film that we got to see. So, and with sideline and end zone copy.
Got a good comment there from Matthew Burke, I think was his name. Quarterbacks need to hit their open receivers as well. Yeah, he did have some open people. Marco didn't have a good game. He struggled, and I know a lot of that was the pressure and the fact that we couldn't run. A lot of times he's able to open up the run game himself by using the quarterback draws and those type of things. Couldn't get any of that going today, and he struggled, and he didn't throw the ball well. Missed some open guys a couple times, threw a little too hard a couple times, and maybe took some sacks that he could have avoided, that sort of thing. But with the pressure he was facing and that pocket collapsing like it was, not an easy thing to do. It's easy for us to sit here and criticize or critique and that sort of thing, but we were watching from a long way away. And, you got 4 or 5, 300-pound guys coming at you and closing in on you. Probably not an easy thing to stand there and throw the ball, but the offensive line has got to get better, period. I mean, if they perform like they did today, I would say we wouldn't win another game, but I think they'll get better. I don't know. I never played at that level, Mike. You did, but to me, that offensive line stuff, it is about, I'm sure, strength and power, that sort of thing. But it's also a will to do it. I mean, standing in front of a guy to pass block. A lot of that has to be just, I'm going to do it. I know there's lots of skill involved.
Well,
I get that.
It starts with attitude. Number one, you don't want your quarterback on the ground, okay? Because guess what? He can't make no plays there. It's pretty obvious, right? So it's with attitude. It's with an attitude. They got to want to protect him. They got to be shown how to protect them. And, like I'm telling you, they should get back to Morgantown around midnight or something, and they might need to put the lights on and get back out there. I've been on different teams where if we had a bad game, in some cases, at the high school level in particular, we had a bad scrimmage, and we were told it was a summertime scrimmage, and we were told to go take a break for 30 minutes, and we're going to go back out on that field. We're going to pull the cars around the field so you got lights at night. And we just did a whole practice all over again. So, I mean, I know there's different, standards of allowing to do the whatever it takes in the world today, but they definitely need more practice, and they definitely need more coaching, and they definitely need they all need it. But in particular, if the quarterback can't make the play, if he's on his back, and those guys they were pushing him back too. They were just basically power rushing them and compressing that pocket for the most part, and those guys were getting thrown back like they were a feather. So those guys are 300+ pound men. They need to know how to anchor down and be able to grab those D linemen. So it's a lot to work on. It's a lot to work on. We only got a week, so I would definitely, they need to get back to the basics again.
Yep. Frank, you want to jump in?
Well, it's interesting, as we were talking before in the pregame show. Ohio really had its back to the wall because they started with 3 Power 4 squads. They lost the first one. They came back in the second half and almost won it. But now they play Ohio State, so that's a game to watch. I can't speak for you guys, but personally, if they acquit themselves against Ohio State, then a lot of the things we're saying may not be as firm as we think they are. I don't believe that they're going to be able to manhandle the offensive defensive lines the way they did with us, but that's something to consider. The other thing that I think is really important is that you look for patterns. You just can't make a judgment, or you shouldn't, based on one instance. And what I'm most concerned about is that a good share of the enthusiasm for Rich Rod coming back was he's a true Mountaineer. He understands us, and we're going to play with the kind of grit, determination that characterized the years that he coached, and the coach Nealon coached, in particular, those two. And I sort of saw that last week, but I didn't see it today. I didn't see the swag. I didn't see the determination. I didn't see the hard hits. And that's really important. So that's something to look for too. I'm not critical. And in fact, I see that Matthew's saying the same thing with his comment. Didn't mean to sound negative, but anyone in the quarterback room can make all the throws. Well, again, and Mike's right. They were rushed today. Just the opposite of last week. We made the quarterback very uncomfortable. Robert Morris quarterback. Today, our quarterbacks were uncomfortable. And when you don't have a running game after Jaheim went out, just like you guys were saying, it makes it difficult. One thing I was surprised, though, is that unless I'm wrong, and I can look it up, I think we only had only one running back come in after that, correct? Did anybody else except for sweeps run?
That's the only one I saw.
I did not. Yeah, I didn't see one either. So you can't have. You got to have 3 good running backs.
Absolutely. Let me look at the box score.
But it don't matter what running back you get. If your O-line cannot open up holes, you will not have any running game at all. I mean, it should be as simple as, my grandmother should be able to run through that hole, and she's, over 100 years old now. That's how big the holes need to open, and that's how much tenacity they need to open those holes for whomever. So they should be able to plug and play a running back if their O-line is successful with completely dominating the line of scrimmage. So, but they got a long way to go, and they need to start tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, Greg and Mike. Clay Ash is the only other running back other than Jaheim that got in the game. He carried the ball 4 times for 2 yards. Overall, we ran the ball 28 times. That's amazing. For 72 yards for a 2.6 average. It just doesn't get it done. And you can't say, well, you have lousy running backs. That it's the offensive line. And we knew that was going to be a major concern. Fans said in a poll it was the number one concern because we lost so many players from last year. I mean, half the guys transferred to Virginia Tech. But the fact of the matter is, we looked good last week, but boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot of work to be done. And now we look for patterns, and hopefully the patterns, what we saw today, will not become pattern behavior.
Yeah, something definitely will change. You know, Frank, you mentioned those stats on the rushing yards again too, to just figure out how bad that was. You take away Jaheim White, had 42 of those yards. You also had the quarterbacks. I know one quarterback draw, Nico had about 12 yards, and the other quarterback had a 10-yard run on a scramble. So that's 20 more of those yards. So that tells you how well our rushing game did. And it's just like Mike said. Now the hole that they open up for his grandma to get through, they'd have to open up just a little bit bigger to get me through it. But he's right. They got it. It shouldn't matter who. You know, we were led to believe that running back room was chock full of good running backs, and they probably are. But I don't care if you have, I'll give away my age, Gale Sayers out there running the football. If you're not getting blocks up front, you ain't going anywhere. I don't care who's back there running the ball. And we should be able to put some of these guys in, and they should be able to do it, which they can, I'm sure. But if there's no place to go, there's no place to go. And today there was no place to go. They totally dominated our line, and the quarterback situation, that's a little concerning too. I mean, I'm not down on Nico. I think he had a bad game. Hopefully it's out of his system. I think there was a lot of factors involved in that bad game, which includes the offensive line. But, bringing the other quarterback in didn't look like they had a ton of confidence in him either, to throw the ball. Obviously, he ran it a few times and threw it once or twice, but didn't look like he had a lot of confidence in him. So Nico apparently is head and shoulders above the other guys, which worries you a little bit if he can't get a little bit more consistent in the future games. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not down on him now. I don't think you jerk him or anything like that. I just think that he had a rough day, and hopefully it gets better. But that offensive line has got to get better. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say here, just to show you that we did do some containing. I'm looking at the rushing yards for Ohio, and Navarro had his yards. There's no question, but their average was only 3.8 on 48 rushes, 3.8, and in fact, the two running backs, their averages were 3.3 and 3.2. It was Navarro had a 5-yard per average with a long of 19. The other thing that didn't happen in Rutgers but happened today is they had a wide receiver room that was much more expansive today than they had against Rutgers. I mean, Hendricks, as I mentioned, had 8 for 121, but this Rodart guy, 3 for 46, and you go down and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wideouts. I think 7 wideouts. No, 6 wideouts and a running back. So seven receivers, 22 receptions, 250 yards, 11.2 average. Nothing really, really long. The longest was 38. I think that was in the first half. But last week we felt so confident in that backside of the defense. And as one of the viewers said earlier, this week we were exposed there. We were exposed.
Yep. Yeah, we had a hard time covering, and I'll let Mike. I'll let you jump in there. I'm sorry to haul up all the time, but when that quarterback can run like that and scramble, and the defensive line can't get to him and get that pressure on him or get a hold of him, it makes it hard on the defensive backs to cover for that long a time. And, that was part of the problem. But you did see some issues back here with a couple of those guys just not able to keep up. They couldn't cover the guys. So that is a little concerning. But you have to credit Navarro a lot for that. Just the fact that he was able to buy some time and make it harder on those defensive backs to cover. Mike, I'll let you jump in there now.
Well, because of Navarro's ability to run the ball, obviously it's 11 on 11 versus like if you just had a quarterback that would sit in the pocket, it's 10 against 11. So we obviously were one man short or a spy short on a quarterback like that. So I'm sure our defensive coordinator will take note on that the next time somebody comes into play that plays like this guy, because he needed his own special guy to come get him. So that's one thing. But going back to our offense, our quarterback, I think they changed quarterbacks for a minute because I think they were trying to change it up a smidge because he had just lost that running back, and I think they were trying to get some type of running game going. But going back to the earlier part of our conversation, you can't run if you have no holes, and if you don't have people to make holes, there is no holes, and then that's usually what happens is you get knocked back and you don't have success. So we got to get back to the basics, and they need to get back to those type of aggressive type of work to knock people off the ball, control the line of scrimmage, and on both sides of the ball always, but especially the offense at this time. So we definitely need more offensive power, or when the games are like this, it's just going to be 9-7, 7-10. Just like this, if we can't get the firepower going with the offense, and you definitely need to be able to score in the Big 12. These people are throwing the ball all day and all night. So we need to be able to have pass pro. We need to be able to run. People need to fear what we do. If you don't fear the run, what do you fear? Well, we don't fear the pass either. If you got nothing to fear, then those defenses are going to have our way. So at least part of our defense, to me, this is probably the best a West Virginia defense has looked in a minute starting a season, even though we lost the game, and there's a whole lot for them to work on. But I'm gonna give them a little kudos because I think they did better than most people thought. And sometimes the offense is just a little bit behind as far as accelerating through a season because there's just so much to absorb. But I mean, we got to get to the basics. And I know this is basically what we're saying, but the basics were really disappointing as far as I'm concerned as a former player, because it always starts with basics. Can't do the basics, you probably don't belong on the field.
And Frank, I'll let you speak on this, but you mentioned having that will, and having that drive to do it, to block, etc. I noticed it seemed like that Ohio's defense was so much quicker to the ball than we were trying to prevent them from getting there. You know what I mean? That sounds crazy and simplified, but it just seemed like, there'd be a brief opening and bam, it was closed. Or, we'd have a play designed to go to the outside, looked like we were going to the edge, bam, they closed it down. It just seemed like they were getting places so much quicker than we were. And I just wanted to ask you if you think that is part of that willpower to get it done.
Yeah, and not only do I agree with it, I was shocked by it. We watched them play Rutgers. We knew they were a good team, 11-3 last year, and now they're 12-4 over the last 16 games. And yet, I saw a lot of football IQ out there today. It was almost as though they knew the plays we were running before we ran them.
Yeah.
And yet, the irony is that Ohio basically said, "Look, we almost beat Rutgers. Let's just keep on doing what we did, and let's see if we can get a different outcome." Again, I think the real test will be when they go up to Columbus to see if they can give Columbus a tough game. will Navarro be able to run against the Buckeyes the way he did today? In fact, one of the things that you talk about swagger, one of the things I thought could have cost them the game, he became reckless in the second half from my point of view. And I'm sure the coaches have taken him aside and said, you're being cocky now. You're taking risks that you don't need to take. This is not a 3-touchdown lead. We're not scoring. But when you think about his interceptions, it just seemed to me that there was and I don't need to be critical. I'm really trying to be descriptive. There was a cockiness there. I didn't see that in the first half where he would take those risks. And I believe they were unnecessary risks. And they could have cost them. It could have cost Ohio, because what he was really doing is saying, okay, defense, you got to stop him. What really happened was pretty much West Virginia stopped it itself. Obviously, the defense was tough, but that's the other thing. And I'll close with this. I'm a great believer that execution is probably 65 to 70% of a play call. At the same time, a number of those play calls, particularly when they were called, I said, "Is Neil Brown still out there?" I mean, it was reminiscent, and I guess I am being critical, but it's gonna, if Pitt turns out to be similar, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be very, very difficult for Mountaineer fans, because we thought we were over the hump. And as Mike said, we probably are, but this kind of loss hurts, period.
Yeah, and the worrisome part about that offensive line is that all we heard all week was how porous Ohio's defense was, and you saw that against Rutgers. I mean, they gave up a ton of yards, ton of points to Rutgers. Played pretty good in the second half, but the first half they gave up 34 points in the first half to Rutgers. So that's concerning too, because are they really that good, or are we just worse than what we even think we are, maybe? And I just that's to me just a big problem, concern. And like you said, if we do the same thing this coming week against Pitt, it could be a long season. We'll probably have to get Mike to take over for us, Frank, because we'll be throwing our hands up and quitting.
or some folks will come after us.
Somebody come after us. Yeah. They'll be so sick of hearing us bitch and moan and complain.
Well, you said, Greg, what's it like when you have 2 or 3 300-pound, 400-pound guys coming at you? That happened to me last week at Old Country Buffet. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have experience in that. Thank God I had a fork in hand. Otherwise, it would have been tough.
Must have had the Clump family coming after you. Oh, shoot. Well, I think we pretty well summed it up, and I'm sure everybody that watched the game feels the same way. One bright note, our punter was better. And, when that's the bright spots, that's problematic. But he was better, and I thought, one thing I noticed on our kickoff, we didn't kick off but twice, but the first one went 10 yards into the end zone, went out of the end zone, back of the end zone. The second time he dropped it about the 5. So I'm wondering, but we did stop him on the 20. I'm wondering if that's not by design now. So apparently he has the leg to get it out of the end zone. Actually, he had a third one they kicked out of bounds, which was
that should never happen, because that's a completely unforced error. It's like you can almost forgive a punter if it shanks, because you never know what's coming at you. But there's nobody coming at you when you're kicking off. The mental side of the game is completely in your control, and the mental side from the very beginning, we weren't sharp, and it's just not where you want it to be. And I'm sure Rich Rod is making it very clear. You just can't do that. You can't kick the ball out of bounds. You got to be present. That's part of that. That's part of the game of life, actually, to be engaged, fully engaged, whatever you're dealing with. Anyway, It's tough. It's a tough loss.
Yes. Mike, you want to follow up, and then we'll get things wrapped up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tough loss because it's a game that I think we could have won, but it's a tale of a couple different things. We lost what in the last game we had 3 turnovers that if we played anybody, our offense had 3 turnovers. If we played somebody that was significant, they probably would have converted those into at least, 21 points or 10 or 13 points, depending on what they would get. But that didn't happen last week. And then this week we got 3 turnovers and we couldn't convert them to save our life, obviously. And they were timely turnovers, which sometimes, as far as us getting the ball to give back to our offense. So, we're not able to take advantage of the things that you need to be able to take advantage of. And it's probably basically breaking down all back to the basics because we can't control the line of scrimmage. So we need to get back to those basics and get back to, the hard stuff of this game and get back to work because the week is short.
Right. That's right. And
Pitt's around the corner. And
right,
that,
you know what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, Pitt's around the corner. So,
yeah, absolutely.
And, a lot of these kids, they're these young men that are playing, they're all in this same little region that we're in. So there's a whole lot of, hoopla going to go on about it, but this is the backyard brawl. And we definitely better be ready for that or it'll be an embarrassing day.
Yep, I think you're right. Frank, your final thoughts?
Boy, I'll tell you, I think you're spot on, Mike. But as we all know, I mentioned earlier, today was the Iowa State game. Doesn't make any difference what the records are. You never know. Iowa State, I think, on paper at least, a superior team. That game came right down to the last few minutes when Iowa State kicked a field goal to win the game by 3. So you just never know what's going to happen. Pitt played another MAC team today. CMU beat them handily, but we'll just see. We're just gonna, today's game will be not forgotten, but will be in the rearview mirror with some distance if we can pull off the win against Pitt. Then we have to go to Kansas. Kansas lost today to Missouri at Missouri, but Kansas is playing. That was their first loss. They're playing better, as you know, from last year, and but it looks like at least at this point, very early, Iowa State looks to be the cream of the Big Ten. Colorado won today, but they played Delaware, so there are these out of conference games. It's sometimes it can be deceptive. So, but we'll see.
Yep, and like you said, the records go out the window whenever the backyard brawl comes around. I hate to bring up this memory, but you think back a few years ago, 13-9, when we were heavily favored, 4 touchdown favorites, and cost us a trip to the national championship. So you never know what's going to happen when these two teams get together. But I will say this, and I'll say it over and over until it gets fixed. If our offensive line don't perform a little bit better, I don't think it's going to matter who we're playing. If we can't score some points, we're in trouble. And it's hard to ask a defense to hold people under 20 every week and hope that you can get 13 or 14. Our offensive line just got to perform better. And Pitt obviously feels the same way about the game. I'm sure it is the backyard brawl. I watched them today; they weren't that impressive. They didn't look to me nearly as good as Ohio, but they may be. You just couldn't really tell today. But I think it'll be a little easier to defensively to contain because of the quarterback situation. It's not, I just think we struggle with that fast-moving quarterback, and we don't have the speed to cover it. We don't tackle well enough to cover it. That's what worries you about Kansas. They've got another one of those dual threat quarterbacks that will have to be chasing around all over the place. So that worries you. But I worry so much more about the offense than I do the defense now. And before I wasn't like that. I felt like our offense was in pretty good shape. I thought our offensive line last week was good. And it's just hard for me to believe that, the Ohio defensive line is that much better than Robert Morse's defensive line or Pitt's defensive or anybody's defensive line. How can they be that much better? That big of a swing and a turnaround. So, something just wasn't there today. I don't know what it was, but you can just hope that it gets better, because if it don't, it'll be a rough one. And
That's right.
But we ain't gonna give up. I was only joking about that. We'll be right here till the bitter end.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, we survived the last couple of years. We survived this now. And if you think back to Rich Rod's first couple of years here to begin with, it was pretty rough back then. So, but it got a lot better. So we'll just hang in there with them, and it'll improve. That's the good thing about it. You see things that can get better. So you have to think with good coaching and good work, it will get better. You have to hope that.
Yeah. That's right.
So
it's yeah. This is a good day for Bullock's West Virginia bourbon after a game like that. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, Mike, Greg and I really appreciate you being on.
Yes.
The last 2 weeks, you've been terrific.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks. Well, hey, when we get done, we'll talk when you're done. But I don't know. I'm going to be going to that Pitt game, so I don't know if you guys want to potentially do something before on a Friday or something, or I'm just letting you know. I don't know what my service will be over there. If you want me to call in and talk to you, whatever, just let me know. So
okay, yeah. What we learned in the past is that trying to do anything from the stadium is hopeless on a cell phone. But I've had luck on live shows, standing outside of the stadium before the game. After the game, it's just so many people around their cell phones. But we'll talk about it. That would be great if we could pull it off.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't know. Yeah, we'll just talk about it. So we'll talk about that after this. So.
Great.
Yep. And Frank, want to remind everybody that we got Dwayne Woods coming up Wednesday night on the show. People want to tune in for that, I'm sure. Fantastic running back for the Mountaineers back in the mid-'70s. I know everybody will be anxious to hear that interview. That'll be good. Looking forward to that. So I hope everybody will tune in and check us out. And make sure you spread the word. Let people know that we're on the air every week, and we have a pretty good following. And comment there while you're showing that graphic. The defense out there 40 minutes. Yeah, they were out there all day.
That's right. That's
on the field.
Yeah, that's what happens when the offense is having difficulty. But Dwayne's looking forward to being with us. He's just a super guy from Bluefield, and we're looking forward. And then we'll be back with you next week. I think we'll be on at 2:00 for the pregame show, because the kickoff is at 3:30. So we'll go from 2 to 3. And Mike, if you can join us on that, that'd be great. A guy named, you may have heard of this name, Freddie Boom Smalls, is it? It's going to be with us. I know you do. I'm just kidding. Is going to be with us, and so we're looking forward to that.
Yep. Be a lot of fun, and be fun to talk to Dwayne Woods Wednesday night. So we'll hope everybody will tune in and again spread the word about the Mountaineer locker room then and now. And we'll be back next week, pre and post game again. And like I said, we're not throwing in the towel yet. Early in the season, we got a long way to go. And it was a rough day today, no question about it. Some glaring deficiencies, so we have those, no question about it. But again, I think there are things that can be fixed. Don't necessarily think it's talent, but there's things that can be corrected. So I hope they'll get corrected, and we'll have brighter faces next Saturday. But with that being said, for Frank and for Mike, again, Mike, appreciate you. We appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching us here on the pre and post game show. We look forward to coming to you Wednesday night with the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now. For those two guys, I'm Greg CRIST. Good night, everybody. Try to enjoy it.